Lesson 28, Indecent Representation of Women's Act. Objectives. History. Indecent representation of women by the media. Laws relating to indecent representation of women. Indecent Representation of Women in India Act 1986. The Indian Constitution, in its Preamble, Fundamental Rights and Duties, Directive Principles, awards equity to women. Act, in addition, engages the state to adopt proportions of positive legislation for women. Inside the system of a just country, our laws, development policies, plans and projects have focused on women's progression in various circles. India has likewise endorsed different worldwide shows and human rights instruments resolving to make sure about equivalent privileges of ladies. Women plays the most vital role in development of any country and community. Vulgar and indecent representation of women in writings and advertisements stare us from posters, magazines, newspapers and television on a regular basis. More and more companies are resorting to provocative depiction of women, suggestively posed, which is an insult to any woman's dignity. As a consequence of the campaigns of various women's organizations, the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act was finally passed in December 1986. This law seeks to ban the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form or body, or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being indecent or derogatory to or denigrating women, or is likely to deprave, corrupt or injure the public morality or morals. Women have been depicted in the most respectable and aesthetic manner on the one hand, and on the other they have also been victims of indecent, vulgar and obscene depiction. Women have mainly stayed within the private sphere of the home and men going to work outside. Print and electronic media both have a significant impact on how women develop. Print media in ancient India included texts written by the Dharma Gurus as well as the Vedas, Puranas, Smritis and other literature. Women were viewed in those days as property that belonged to fathers, husbands and then their sons. Many Indians adhere carefully to the rules and regulations outlined in these books and follow them without question. Where there seems to be no dead end to these misconducts, the establishment of a new authority or an organization would not just restrain but also thwart the aforesaid activities on a massive scale. With the expansion of advertisement industry in the past few years, there has been an endless compromise with the dignity of citizens for achieving their objectives and not to overlook a greater revenue through rising TRP levels. The indecent representation of women refers to any portrayal of a woman's shape, form or body or any aspect of it in a manner that can be seen as improper, denigrating of women or otherwise likely to tarnish or undermine public morality or morals. Media is one of the most potent forces in this communication-enabled world. It plays a vital role in the socialization process. It can create or diminish the culture. It has the potency to eradicate gender inequality or prolong its sustenance. Media's significance and its game-changer role have much to do about gender emancipation. The patriarchal hegemonic society has created gender identity for all sexes. This unequal identity has been a structural problem, and it starts from a woman's body. Her identity is separated from her body, and it is imposed with ideas and impressions which man thinks fit for her. Thus, after a discussion on media, this chapter will move on to women and her portrayal as an object in media, which will be the main contention for the whole research. By involving, influencing and changing people, media quickens the development process. It serves as a significant tool for social transformation in Indian society. The media's extensive influence is changing quickly in India's many realms of life, including economic, social, cultural, intellectual, religious and even moral principles. In Indian society, the media is one of the key agents of social change. It has been noted in the hallways of social change institutions that media frequently promotes consumer desires and ideals that are at odds with Indian culture and customs. There is far too much sex and violence and stereotypes and sexism present as to how women are portrayed. The portrayal of gender as a product in the media is well documented. Newspapers, television, films, magazines, hoardings and posters, cable and satellite television have grown rapidly throughout the world. And of all the popular means of mass media, television has the greatest mass appeal and acceptance. With the emergence of women as consumers of products, there has been a subtle change in the nature of advertisements that are put out, which appeal to women as consumers rather than showing women for the purpose of attracting. Indecent representation of women means the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form, her body, or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being indecent or derogatory to or denigrating women, or as is likely to deprave, corrupt or injure public morality or morals. Decency varies from place to place, person to person. With the progress of the society and change in the lifestyle of the people, standard of propriety, etc., keep on changing. So, with the passage of time, the meaning of decency kept on changing. The degree of morality and decency also took a new look. Obscenity, indecency and vulgarity are difficult to characterize because they are so closely tied to a society's moral standards. How probable is it to deprave and corrupt people whose brains are sensitive to such immoral impulses and into whose hands a publication of this kind may fall is how obscenity is judged. Obscenity includes but is not limited to the acquisition, renting, distribution, public exhibition, circulation, import, export or advertisement of anything that is obscene. These commercials, publications and other materials have a depraving or corrupting effect even if no specific aim is behind them. To successfully stop ambiguous representation of women in commercials, publications, pamphlets and other media, different laws are thus needed. Sections 292 and 293 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 were added in conformity with the judgment reached by the International Convention for the Suppression and Circulation of and traffic in obscene publications, signed at Geneva on September 12, 1923. Sections 292 and 293 of the Indian Penal Code Amendment Act of 1969 underwent revisions to make the existing law more explicit and comprehensible. The necessity to safeguard society from the possible harm that could result from obscene material and to uphold freedom of expression while striking a balance with the free flow of information is crucial. In response to women's movement, the Rajya Sabha bill against women's indecent representation was introduced in 1986 that demanded legislative action to address denigrating portrayals of women in the nation. Any publication that contains an indecent depiction of a woman in any format is prohibited by Section 4 from being produced, sold, rented, distributed, circulated or transmitted by mail. The Act punishes the indecent representation of women, which means the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form or body or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being indecent or derogatory to or denigrating women, or is likely to deprive, corrupt or injure the public morality or morals. It states that no person shall publish or cause to publish or cause to be published or arrange to take part in the publication or exhibition of any advertisement which contains indecent representation of women in any form. In the Act, advertisement includes any notice, circular, label, wrapper or other document, and also includes any visible representation made by means of any light, sound, smoke or gas. The amendment suggested by the National Commission for Women suggests to amend the definition to advertisement includes any notice, circular, label, poster, wrapper or other document, and also includes any visible representation made by means of any laser light, sound, smoke, gas, fiber, optic, electronic or other media. The NCW recommended that Section 2B of the Act be modified to read as derogatory representation of women means the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form of body or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being derogatory to or denigrating women, and is also likely to deprive, corrupt or endanger public morality or morals. The 1986 Indecent Representation of Women Act sought to control how women were portrayed in the media and other popular outlets. It was implemented to make sure those commercials, periodicals, publications and artwork did not portray women in a demeaning manner. The term indecent representation refers to indecent depiction of women in any manner that has the effect of being indecent or derogatory of a woman, or that is corrupt or vulnerable to public morals or moralistic depravity. The definition of decency differs from area to area and from person to person. The standards of propriety as well as other elements are constantly evolving as society advances and people's lifestyles changes. As a result, as time passed on, the definition of decency changed as well as the level of morality and decency. The Indian Penal Code 1860 does not define the term obscene. The code's creators refrained from defining obscenity in specific words, presumably considering that it depends on the moral standards of modern culture. According to the definition of advertisement as modified by the National Commission for Women, it is obscene to produce any sign, circle, sticker, poster, wrapper or other document, as well as any visible representation created by any laser light, sound, smoke, gas, fiber, electronic, optic or other media. Obscenity can be identified by its propensity to deprave and corrupt intelligent people who are susceptible to such immoral effects and who might obtain a publication of this nature. If it does, obscenity laws apply to the situation. Section 292 of the India Penal Code IPC says a book, pamphlet, paper, writing, drawing, painting, representation, figure or any other object shall be deemed to be obscene if it is lascivious or appeals to the prurient interest or if it affects such as to tend to deprave and corrupt person. This act may be called the Indecent Representation of Women, Prohibition Act 1986. It shall come into force on such dates as the central government may, by notification in the official gazette, appoint. 2. Definitions. In this act, unless the context otherwise requires: 1. Short title, extent and commencement. A. Advertisement includes any notice, circular, label, wrapper or other document and also includes any visible representation made by means of any light, sound, smoke or gas. B. Distribution includes distribution by way of samples, whether free or otherwise. C. Indecent representation of women means the depiction in any manner of the figure of a woman, her form or body or any part thereof in such a way as to have the effect of being indecent or derogatory to or denigrating women, or is likely to deprave, corrupt or injure the public morality or morals. D. Label means any written, marked, stamped, printed or graphic matter affixed to or appearing upon any package. Package includes a box, carton, tin or other container. Prescribed means prescribed by rules made under this act. 3. Prohibition of advertisements containing indecent representation of women. No person shall publish or cause to be published or arrange or take part in publication or exhibition of any advertisement which contains indecent representation of women in any form. 4. Prohibition of publication or sending by post of books, pamphlets, etc. containing indecent representation of women. No person shall produce or cause to be produced, sell, let to hire, distribute, circulate or send by post any book, pamphlet, paper, slide, film, writing, drawing, painting, photograph, representation or figure which contains indecent representation of women in any form. Any representation sculptured, engraved, painted, otherwise represented on or in any ancient monument within the meaning of the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958, 24 of 1958, or any temple or on any car used for the conveyance of idols or kept or used for any religious purposes. Subject to such rules as may be prescribed, any gazetted officer authorized by the state government may, within the local limits of the area for which he is so authorized, enter and search at all reasonable times with such assistance, if any, as he considers necessary. 5. Provided that no entry under this subsection shall be made into a private dwelling house without a warrant, provided further that the power of seizure under this subsection may be exercised in respect of any document, article or thing which contains any such advertisement, including the contents, if any, of such document, article or thing. If the advertisement cannot be separated by reason of its being embossed or otherwise from such document, article or thing without affecting the integrity, utility or saleable value thereof. The provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, 2 of 1974 shall so far as may be apply to any search or seizure under this Act as they apply to any search or seizure made under the authority of a warrant issued under section 94 of the said code. Where any person seizes anything under clause B or clause C of subsection 1, he shall as soon as may be inform the nearest magistrate and take his orders as to the custody thereof. 6. Penalty. Any person who contravenes the provisions of section 3 or section 4 shall be punishable on first conviction with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 2 years and with fine which may extend 2,000 rupees, and in the event of a second or subsequent conviction with imprisonment for a term of not less than 6 months, but which may extend to 5 years, and also with a fine not less than 10,000 rupees, but which may extend to 1 lakh rupees. 7. Offences by companies. Where an offence under this Act has been committed by a company, every person who at the time the offence was committed was in charge of and was responsible to the company for the conduct of the business of the company as well as the company shall be deemed to be guilty of the offence and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly, shall be deemed to be guilty of the offence and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly. 2. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, where any offence under this Act has been committed by a company and it is proved that the offence has been committed with the consent or connivance of or is attributable to any neglect on the part of any director, manager, secretary or other officer of the company, such director, manager, secretary or other officer shall be proceeded against and punished accordingly. 8. Offences to be cognizable and bailable. The manner in which the seizure of advertisements or other articles shall be made and the manner in which the seizure list shall be prepared and delivered to the person from whose custody any advertisement or other article has been seized. Any other matter which is required to be or may be prescribed. Every rule made under this Act shall be laid as soon as may be after it is made before each House of Parliament while it is in session for a total period of 30 days, which may be comprised in one session or in 2 or more successive sessions. 9. Protection of action taken in good faith. No suit, prosecution or other legal proceedings shall lie against the central government or any state government or any officer of the central government or any state government for anything which is in good faith done or intended to be done under this Act. 10. Power to make rules. The central government may, by notification in the official gazette, make rules to carry out the provisions of this Act. In particular and without prejudice to the generality of the foregoing power, such rules may provide for all or any of the following matters, namely a. the manner in which the seizure of advertisements or other articles shall be made, and the manner in which the seizure list shall be prepared and delivered to the person from whose custody any advertisement or other article has been seized. B. Any other matter which is required to be or may be prescribed. The Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Amendment Bill 2012 aimed to expand the scope of the existing Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986 to include new forms of communication that had emerged since the enactment of the original act. The 1986 Act primarily focused on prohibiting indecent representation of women through traditional print media such as advertisements, publications, writings, and paintings. The amendment bill sought to broaden the definition of indecent representation of women to encompass content disseminated through the internet, satellite-based communication, cable television, and other electronic media. This expansion was crucial to tackle the increasing instances of online harassment, cyberbullying, and the spread of misogynistic and objectifying content targeting women. It included exceptions for material published in the interest of science, literature, or art for bona fide religious purposes and for sculptures in ancient monuments or temples. The exemption ensured that legitimate creative works and cultural heritage would not be stifled under the law. The amendment bill underlined the government's commitment to safeguarding women's dignity and ensuring their portrayal in the media is respectful and free from objectifications and exploitation. It aimed to create a comprehensive legal framework that kept pace with technological advancements and addressed the evolving challenges faced by women in the digital age. In spite of the law, gender concerns in the media is a serious concern today, as the problems of women's portrayal in the media have been agitating the mind of the civil society. An attempt is being made to curb this growing problem. Continued incidences of obscene depiction of women in television and in the media. It is a successful law for protecting women's integrity and reputation, but its success is dependent on how well it gets implemented. Furthermore, the penal provisions are not stringent in nature. The amount of fines and the punishment for repeat offenders is much lower.